Adeptus Tideman came to me yesterday with some shocking and dismaying numbers. We've been dealing with, well, starvation diets for the better part of a decade now, always struggling for food. We lose tens of thousands on a monthly basis, it seems. Oftentimes, populations fall, one calling or another. We constantly have to shift workforce between the harvesting planet here on New Terra and some of our mechanic worlds. They're extracting as many minerals as we can, but for the organics, there's only one planet in our entire little empire at this point that's suitable for growing foods. New Terra 3. It's the jewel, the breadbasket, I would say. But here's the issue. As each planet continues to grow, with room for millions more, we are running out of people on New Terra 3 and space for them to grow more. We can't just make a hive city where we need fields, prairie, grain, the sun streaming down to illuminate it all, provide the engine, photosynthesis, I believe they call it, to store the energy and the food and the water that we then eat, ship throughout our tiny little empire in this pocket dimension. So, Tiedemann mentioned the potential of a hydroponic farm. Now, this would provide enough food per planet for as many as 2 million souls, but at a massive cost of roughly 2 billion credits. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. I can't justify that, although Tiedemann can do the numbers. I'm the one that has to pay the bills. No. If we get complacent, if we get fat, feeding ourselves off these hydroponic farms and funding them as opposed to putting the resources into our military, I think that'll be the doom of us. No, I think what we need to do is continue to build out the Navy, reinforce the Marines, and conquer. If I didn't know any better, based off of what the Imperium back in our home galaxy has been doing for millennia, war is the answer. The question is, who to war upon? We have these horrible Xenos here to the north, celestial north. We call them the Knoll, for lack of a better word. To the south, we think the primary radio sources are coming from Colvin, an insectoid-like creature. We call them the Clackons. We imagine their carapaces, their mandibles clack as they move about, thus the name. And then here, the heart of this nightmare species of... Imagine if every person in a population had the curse of being a tech priest. Gives you some idea of how awful these Xenos must be. Mentar here. I call them the Cylons because I feel that they reach out and invade my dreams with, well, what they'd like to flict upon the Terrans here as they consume every star system within this little pocket dimension. I don't know if they have telepathic capabilities. I can only imagine as I see them over the broadcast across the wave, their massive, swollen, disgusting Xeno heads. There must be some telepathic capability locked in there, but they appear to be very smart, if you could say. As I look over here at the data graphs we've been gathering, the Clacon overall seem to be moving ahead. They're very efficient at building. We can just tell by the number of EM sources across their worlds, the heat signatures watching through infrared telescopes and whatnot we have in orbit off of the space station. Some of the old equipment on the Titan Dash are still function for that. We're able to observe to some degree every star within the pocket dimension we're in. Now, we've been building the fleet quickly. I noticed the Nolan have been preparing for war themselves. Again, we can tell by the plasma drive plumes coming off the ships. It stands out sort of like a small sustained nuclear explosion, for lack of a better description. So We can see them buzzing about as we make these estimates. And finally, well, the technology is trickier, but it has to do with the frequency of many of the EM radiation spikes as well as gravimetric disturbances they're able to make at a near Planck scale. It's unusual, but, well, I don't pretend to understand it. But I think the Cylon are our greatest threat, not because of their war machine, but because of their proclivity for technology. The Adeptus tech priests are right. They'll be our greatest threat. So I suggest we target them soonest. And what I've noticed, unfortunately, is that our mighty warships, the Paladins, can't actually get to our enemies. Have the ability to put extended fuel tanks on the ships, but it would take up a massive amount of space. We're already providing additional space for troop pods. We have battle pods, which essentially allow us to add missile bays, additional fusion beam pods to the exterior of the ships. I've slapped some heavy armor on, which helps negate the potential for armor-piercing beam weapons. And of course, the tech priests have begged for scout labs, thus increasing the technological output of our worlds. Although they say our current level with a research lab on every single one of our colonies is sufficient, as we move into higher and higher levels of technology, the rate at which we gain to new technology will fall rapidly behind. So there are a lot of problems we're facing at this point, and I don't know how to solve them all. But Tiedemann recommended hydroponic farms. I had to counter with something, so I said, I'll find us a planet where we can grow more food, Tiedemann. So here we go. We have scout ships left, our smaller vessels. We might as well send them out to the nearest systems. I don't want to send a troop transport, although the Marines can certainly do reconnaissance. They're far too valuable to risk with some xenomonstrosity. I remember that hyperspace beast that came through the galaxy and consumed an entire one of our factory colony vessels with 1 million souls on board. The Marines are tough, but if a creature's large enough to swallow their entire transport, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do from the inside. I'm sure they would figure it out, but I'm not going to risk it. So as I look around here, how many worlds can the scouts reach? The scouts have extended fuel pods, which allow them to go further. I'm not going to send the scouts out to the xenoplanets yet. I'm sure those systems would gobble them up eagerly. There's no way they would leave our troops unmolested. So I'm not willing to sacrifice people that way at this point. A little starvation is one thing, but we're all hungry. We'll send them out. Rotan 5 completed another Marine transport ship. The Marines will be happy to have that handed over to them. For the time being, actually, there's no sense in having both of our Paladins floating around Rigel. We'll send one to Rotan, which is sort of, for all intents and purposes, the shock front of our entire empire at this point. Interesting. Magistrate Crassus, apparently an engineer off another rogue trading vessel. Despite the unusual skin appearance, his biology does test out as roughly Terran standard. Those are pigments added to the skin to protect against the harmful radiation. Reminds me of our financial leader as well. Apparently out there in the deeps of the Calixis sector and beyond, they're exposed to all sorts of awful radiation. The shielding on many rogue trader vessels isn't exactly up to par with the Imperium. Many of them are cobbled together. But this fellow here tells me he can improve the efficiency of almost all of our manufactories around one system if we'll let him put our hands on. We'll bring him in. There's no sense in not having extra hands. What is this? Scout report just in from the Zoth system. Ancient artifacts discovered? Non-Terran, but an extremely advanced civilization once inhabited this world and has inexplicably disappeared. They were probably eradicated by Xenos if I had to guess. leaving relics of wonder that add +2 research generated by each scientist that we may put on the planet. I have a lot of scientists to spare right now with everyone either growing food or manufacturing stuff, but interesting. Well, that is a nice system. We have a huge radiated planet with poor mineral abundance. That's not so great. Let's need another radiated, although abundant planet, medium size. That one may be worth getting a colony factory on. Although it's radiated, we can't grow any food. It's not really conducive to survival for our people. Now this is a gem. Zo3, huge, arid, max population. They estimate at 25 million currently. Rich, heavy G, which again isn't a problem for us with those ancient artifacts. But, well, my farmers assure me that with the right equipment, we can farm that arid world. Think like desert planets you've heard of in the fictions. Well, we'll make that planet green. No sense in leaving it all sand. Our explorers discovered the technological secret of a neutron blaster weapon, functional among the ancient artifacts at Zoth. Excellent. Our tech priests have already taken the weapon and have measured everything they can and are now going to disassemble it, but they've sworn upon their lives that they will be able to manufacture more of them going forward. That is fortuitous. If their estimations are correct, that neutron blaster should be even more efficacious than our fusion beams. If I go here to our tech review, neutron blaster estimated 3 to 12 points of damage against enemy shields. They're also telling me that any damage that penetrates has a chance of ionizing the DNA within enemy marine units, killing them outright. Makes the job for our marines all that much easier. In fact, it makes it so easy, we may not need troop pods on our ships of the line anymore. That's right, we need less marines if there's less marines for them to battle. We'll try and ionize them and kill them outright before we ever board. That may help us out. Okay, so we need to get a colony ship to Zoth. And in fact, we'll send one of the ships there, one of the paladins there, as quick as we can. Although, well, we don't want to send everything. Actually, we want to keep some ships close to near New Terra, just in case of a Xeno ambush. I'll redesign the paladin, but not yet. Actually, my Astro priests have told me that we can make those MIRV warheads shortly once we've completed research on that pollution processor. So we'll hold off on that for a moment. But let's get the colony ship built, because again, we are facing starvation. So let's jump to New Terra 3. They've been slowly working on one of the paladins. But let's shift that production over. We'll repurpose the whole of that ship to a colony ship with a factory on it. We'll find 1 million willing souls. We'll load them up. Combat at Kana. Oh no. Some sort of massive space monstrosity, reminiscent of an eel if the Marines are telling me truthfully, which I have no reason to ever to their face tell them they're lying. But the Khan system, the Non system, has a poor radiated world, not so great, but a large tundra planet with some life forms on the surface. It's possible it is a Terran population on the surface, a splinter colony we could absorb into our empire. However, they can't guarantee that. It seems that the life forms on the surface are shielding our detectors. So it's very possible that's an alien species inhabiting that world, but it is ultra rich. And although it is frozen over, it's not completely hospitable. There are, in fact, signs of algae growing on the surface of much of the ice of that planet. Could be harvested for food potentially. We want that world. However, to get to it, we're going to need to find a way to destroy the eel. I'm actually surprised that eel has not destroyed our frigate, or attacked it, at least tried to destroy it. New Terra 3 christened the new ship the Colony Ship, and they'll return to work on our battleship. So let's send that Colony Ship immediately to Zoth, and we will send our Paladin on as soon as it reaches Rotan. That's probably the most valuable gem that's going to be in our empire right after New Terra 3, provided we can get food growing there. So the Colony Ship is en route. We have just enough food production for the time being. We will continue on producing for the moment. Actually, we need freighter fleets. We've maxed out our freighter capacity yet again. The freighters don't disappear. We just build a larger and larger fleet. They're making more and more runs. This reminds me of what Holy Terra must go through trying to feed the quadrillions of souls upon it. Food coming in from literally tens of thousands of agri-worlds to sustain that number of mouths on New Terra. Well, this is in reverse. I have a single agri-world feeding the entire rest of our little mini empire. But I need more freighters nonetheless. So, repurpose more of the structure for that Paladin? Yeah. At this point, I have enough other battleships in production. I need more fleet capacity. So we'll cut up more of my precious ship of the line for basic freighters. It's crude, but it needs to be done, and we'll have them shortly. That's a good thing. Other ships of the line will be coming online within a year, approximately, according to the mech techs. No one's attacked us yet. I am going to pull this scout away from that eel. I figure the eel will protect those planets as well as our scouts will. From what our colonist specialists are telling us, though, we can't make a run past the eel to one of those planets. It would attack a colony ship or prevent colonization in general. So we won't attempt it. But yeah, we'll continue on to the next potential planet, scouting the system. I will pull the scout out of Zoth for now. We have ships en route. I don't think any Xenos can beat us there. And in fact, we will have a battleship en route there in just another month, rediverting. We need to push forward, trying to explore as much of our immediate space as we can reach as possible. We can't do war just yet because we can't reach any Xenos. Let's continue. Crassus? I have not assigned him a role yet. Gosh darn it. Crassus is going to replace Gallus here in the Terra system. And I'm going to reassign Gallus to our next most populous system, where he can help drive capital collection. So in this case, the Rotan system. Good luck, Gallus. Bring in the coin. And there's another disgusting Xenos hovering about, asking for employment and protection. I would destroy them if I could, but their ships are fast and small. They're able to easily disappear at the outskirts of our systems. I'll drive Magistrate Emo, the Xeno scum, away for now. We don't want them anywhere near us if possible. Of course, our little lab specimen is continuing to provide a good amount of research on a monthly basis. I appreciate the help it's willing to offer. All right, let's continue here. Interesting. At first, I thought this might be some sort of a horrible mutant. But in fact, Director Rosh Iki, the Warlord, is a renowned Terran augmented soldier of sorts. Not a space marine, but sort of the best of the best that the rogue traders might have to offer. Ocular implants, dermal armor, as well as special fibers woven into the skin to make it all the more difficult to damage. With Marines of my own, I don't actually need her to run combats, but I think she would make an excellent motivator for some of our fabricators. So she'll be brought on. She's joined us out of gratitude for rescuing her off of this rock here in the Tai system, a poor barren planet. She's been surviving alone in nothing but a survival pod. So I know she is tough. We'll bring her into our services. New Terra finished a freighter fleet. Excellent. We'll need that for feeding all the folks. But let's, before I forget, find a job for Director Rashiki. Crassus is here at Terra. Rotan, Moretta. You know where I would like her is the Rigel system. With the rich and abundant planet, she should be able to help considerably. She is en route now. Excellent. What else might we need here? Well, let's send the Paladin with its accompanying transports onto Zoth, just to help run off any Xenos that might be sniffing about. And I will move our scout on again. Where else? A bleeding red giant in a nebulanic cloud. It's on the way. Technological breakthrough. Perfect. Our tech priests have come and told us they've created and perfected production of a pollution control facility. It uses advanced chemicals to process factory waste. Only half of the actual production of the planet is used to calculate population. That helps. Listen, most of these worlds are barren or radiated already, but it is wasteful of our production surplus. So this will mean we can build more quickly, more efficiently. So what to work on next? Well, there's a few options, but I'll tell you what the Marines really want, especially if war is on the horizon. Powered armor. That's the next choice then. Powered armor it is. We're going to forego more powerful space stations and even more efficient mining means because, again, we won't sit on our laurels. We're not trying to make a comfy homeworld here, well-fed and overloaded with surplus goods. We need more machines for our efforts. Scouts have arrived at the Gamma system, a radiated, abundant world with what looks like a stable wormhole. I'm not aware that wormholes actually existed in nature. You hear about them, I suppose, but I've never seen one with my own eyes. Rotan 2 finished construction of a starbase, and next in his queue is a freighter fleet. That's perfect. That means at Rotan we now have the capability of building battleships and ships of the line at that colony. I see Xeno fleet detected outside of the Dubin system. Look at this. Based off the chatter, we imagine there may be tens of thousands of Marines in orbit around the Dubin planetary systems. Just another sign of Xeno aggression. However, we're not getting much in the way of energy readings off of their warships. They've definitely got weapons, but they're not impressive in my estimation. I'll let the Marines know. They can determine what we might do about it. I think we may be leading raids against the Cylon sooner rather than later. We're having food shortage issues again. That's not surprising. It's never surprising. I'll shuffle over another manufacturer worker to the farm fields. Keeping an eye on these population systems. There's still room to grow on all of our worlds, although New Terra is filling up quickly. Let's try and implement some of our pollution processors at this point. We have some horribly polluted worlds. For instance, New Terra 2 wastes 50 of its 94 production, nearly 50%. That is catastrophic levels. We're going to streamline the production process immediately by putting those processors in the production line for the new ship of the line. So we'll finish that quickly. Pollution is bad on our other worlds. We actually should make the switch out. We're going to not wait to see how efficacious these new pollution processes are. We're going to immediately put them in the queues here. This might actually ultimately get us the ship of the lines even faster. Surprisingly, it may work. So all those pollution processes will be done shortly. We'll see if it speeds up production on those ships. Pollution is much less severe on most of our other systems, although we will eventually get them pollution processors as well, just for efficiency. In fact, we might as well move those ahead now, as we don't have a desperate need for spies or freighter fleets. In the end, it'll come down to efficiency. It won't pay off immediately, but over years and decades, it will more than pay off. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do it across the board here. Let's get this in line everywhere. Those star bases will be back in the queue quite shortly. I'm not going to worry about it here on New Terra 3. We've kept the planet rather pristine, actually. There is no pollution whatsoever. There's also almost no production, but that's besides the point. There is one other thing we need to do, though, now that we have the more advanced missile technology, is redesign. The Paladin 1 is an odd name. It has been suggested to me that we reterm it the Purger 1.0. Let's take a look at what we've got. So we no longer should need the troop pods. Troop pods doubles the Marines on every single ship, but we're going to lean towards efficiency by using neutron blasters. So it's going to be a little bit of a blend here. We might add the battle scanner, which will be a plus 50% to hit with beam weapons. So this will be the battle pods for extra space, the heavy armor, which triples the armor of our ship and helps prevent potential armor-piercing weapons, the scout lab for research, and the plus 50% from the battle scanner to hit with beam weapons. So we need a few things here. Let's go to our fusion beam. Let's go to our mass driver and repurpose that as a neutron blaster heavy mount. We'll accept that. And let's go to our nuclear missiles. You now see the MERV option. Essentially what this does is it puts 4 warheads into every single missile. So although it doubles the size of each missile feeder, each missile, it'll hit with twice the power. Well, 4 times the power, but twice the power for double the size. It all makes sense. 2 nuclear warheads, 2 salvos of 2 nuclear, 2 salvos of 2 missiles, but each of those missiles will hit with the equivalent of 4 standard nuclear missiles. So each salvo of 2 is the equivalent of 8 warheads detonating when it hits. Bear in mind, they have electric countermeasures. They are armored and they're faster than standards. The motors burn harder. We have 2 heavy neutron blasters. We have a single continuous fire heavy fusion beam. Could we swap that out, though, with a mass driver? No. The mass drivers don't have continuous fire. The issue with that is we lack accuracy because of, well, the level of our optronic computers we want to hit. But if we were to bleed off a couple point defense weapons, yes, we could get a second fusion beam on. Now this is important because the neutron blasters, although extremely good at tearing through shields and Marines, may not be as effective at damaging the armor and the structure of a ship as the fusion beams. Now, the fusion beams, of course, are horrible at long range, but we'll close the gap with the enemy. The missiles will tear in the neutron blasters, the fusion beams, and if they're disabled, we will board those ships. That's it. The Purger 1. I wish we could get rid of the scout labs altogether, but again, if we don't have the additional resources for research, we will fall much farther behind on technology, unfortunately. So that's it. We'll move the Purger into the queue. We'll swap it with the Paladin 1 and remove the Paladin 1 altogether. I know that took a bit of explanation, but I had to think through it myself here. It's all been decided. And these old ships never did see completion. But we'll repurpose the hulls so almost nothing is lost. There we go. We'll advance our turn, and many of those pollution processors should come online. The colony ship has reached Zoth 3, and we'll send them down. But you can see here, food per farmer is 1, the industry will be 5, research per scientist is 5. That again has to do with those ancient artifacts. So it may be worth setting up our tech priest temples here on Zoth 3, of all the worlds so far in our small Imperium. Beautiful. Here we are at Zoth. I don't want them farming, though. We need them building, and we need them building quickly. An automated factory? Yeah. And then a single colony base for that more superior planet. The other one we'll leave be for now. Fallow, I believe, is what the farmers say. Then we'll need that marine barracks, of course, the research lab, and a star base. Actually, we'll need soil enrichment sooner, probably. Soil enrichment we're going to move right after the automated factory, because again, the whole point of colonizing this gem of a planet is the food. We're going to keep at least one ship of the line at the system always. We can never risk Xenos getting their hands on this world. It may literally be the difference between life and death for the rest of our worlds as far as feeding them. A lot of things have happened. Pollution processors across many of our colonies will continue on. Food is running short again. Yes. I'll pull more people off of New Terra 2 and put them to work in the farm fields. And you can see here, the new purges are back in the build queues, essentially with no loss of time. We lost almost nothing. That shows you the gains we've made by the pollution here on New Terra 2 was sitting at 50 barrels. We're now down to just 21 barrels. It's a massive win in my book. And everything else will continue on according to plan. I'll tell you what else I would like to see is let's ship 1 million workers off of Rotan 2 to Zoth. Let's jumpstart that world's growth, and they'll be there in 2 months. Simple enough. Bear in mind, though, that does take up some of our freighter fleets. I believe it's about one freighter can haul roughly 200,000 workers, so 5 of them to ship the 1 million. It slightly reduces our food needs for the time being, as most of those colonists will have food rations going with them. They'll be quite hungry along the way. What next? Our final scout is just about through that nebula. I don't dare move that ship of the line off the Zoth system for the time being, and I'm going to leave this scout ship orbiting Gammas. I want to protect this world here as it is suitable. Dare I send it through the wormhole? I think we have to dare. I don't think we have a choice. So away those Marines go. Galactic News Network, the galaxy's most watched information source. The population boom of Simac 4 has ended. Breakthroughs in birth control technology in the Nolan Empire have been blamed for the decline. So again, these odd metal men continue to send out these notifications. I don't think they're meant for us or the other Xenos. They seem to be talking to one another as though this is some form of sick entertainment for them, watching Xenos battle it out in the pocket dimension they've forged for us, that they've imprisoned us in. Scouts have arrived at their Hermidon system, a lone red dwarf pulsing away. Not even asteroids suitable for harvesting the metals out of. It's a useless system to us. And scouts have arrived at the Ursula system. Interesting, 3 worlds, 1 a gas giant. Barren, poor mineral, and barren and poor mineral. That is a worthless system in my estimation. Oh my gosh, look at this monstrosity. Reptilian in nature, scaled with deformed forearms. Must be technologically inept. I doubt the thing could hold a spanner. I see that the competition has arrived. Let the games begin. The Alkari, not exactly sure what they would look like. We've only heard word. And the Soccer Empires are now at peace. This again is something we're picking up off the waves. That's bad news for us. War always favors the Terrans. What can I say? I'm going to pull the scout out of the Hermodon system, though. It's useless there. Send it to the TIE system. It's not a good system, but I would just as soon as deny it from the Cylons if possible. And I'm also going to recall the Marines from the Ursula system. The Gamma system, again, is more likely to be colonized by Xenos near us. And I actually like that world in the Gamma system for potential colonization. Perhaps we could put an outpost there sooner? Here's the issue. My ships of the line still can't reach. We need a solution to this. Our warships cannot reach the Cylons to attack them. What we need is a colony closer, but colonies are expensive. So perhaps an outpost ship at the Gammas or TIE system would alleviate that problem. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's create an outpost ship. Our techs can throw one together quite quickly, hopefully. It'll be ready next turn. Perfect. That's wonderful. And our food is stable enough for the time being. We advance. Terra 3 is christened the new outpost ship, and its settlers arrived at Zoth 3. Let's send the outpost ship to TIE. I think it's deeper into the Cylon sphere of... Oh, I don't want to send it to Cadath. That would be useful. To TIE. TIE is simply closer to the Cylon planets than Gammas. And we'll put a colony ship on Gammas at some point, hopefully here. We need some ships of the line to come online as quick as we can. We're just months away from completion, what my people are telling me. Let's complete the pollution processor on Rotan. We'll get that done so they can get on to building other things for us. Freighter fleet's next in the queue, which we will need. You are tuned in to JNN, the source of all the news you need to know. A military soccer ship mysteriously exploded and investigation into the cause is underway. That is excellent news. So it sounds like espionage is running wild in this little dimension, which is why we continue to produce our spies. Although they are telling me, our agents, when they report in, they are severely outmatched by the spies of some of these Xenos empires or civilizations. I don't know that any of us are empires out here. We have no benefits to our agents or active spies, although I dare not send out any active spies at this moment. We might do something about that at some point. We have another intel of Xeno ships at the Cadath system. Their fleet seems pathetic. I'm not exactly sure why that is. As though some sort of malevolent Xenos presence is predating on them. I couldn't say exactly. The Purgers will be finished shortly. I'm looking forward to that. A bit of the bug has been going around the confined quarters here. But plague is part of life in the Imperium. Rotan 2 built a freighter fleet. Perfect. We could ship more people to Zalth. Actually, may be well worth it. We're risking overpopulation here on any of our worlds. Yeah. Right here. Let's pluck one away from Moretta. We'll ship them over to Zalth. Zalth is the superior planet in all measures. They'll be there shortly. There we go. New Terra Prime christened the ship the Purger 1. Excellent. Are there any other needs they have on Terra Prime? They don't need biospheres yet, or missile bases, or hydroponic farms. I think they're in decent shape. Let's have them fabricate another Purger for us. And that should have pushed up our research on the monthly basis as well, having that scout lab. We will send this ship onto Zoth. Again, keeping the old original Paladin near the homeworld, near the core for protection. Select planet for the outpost of the TIE system. Yeah, this is a junk planet, but it's in the vicinity. Proximity is what we're after here. New Terra 2 christened the new ship the Purger 1. Excellent. And they have no needs of biospheres yet. Their population grows slowly. They have their pollution processor, so they will work on a Purger as well. We may need more troop transports. If I just make a rough estimation of the number of planets in the Cylon system, it's at minimum 4, more likely 5, 6, 7, or 8. And I'm probably going to need at least a single troop transport ship per planet we make fall on. So I'm going to have to start building additional transports. Currently, we have 2, which is a great way to start the invasion. We'll send off the newly fabricated Purger to Zoth as well. And I'm going to leave our little scout ships in orbit where they're at. Again, just sort of as a minor threat or obstacle to, well, these otherwise pathetic Cylon vessels. Look at these ships. Wouldn't stand a chance. I doubt they'd even stand up against our frigates, our scout frigates. But we do need troop transports. So this freighter fleet's about finished. That should be enough for the time being. Let's get additional troop transports fabricated. We'll load up the build queue for the time being. That's what they'll do. And then, of course, here on Rotan 5, we will load up spies. And actually, we'll drop a freighter fleet in there right in the middle. Should come through at the appropriate time. Things are looking good. We've nearly finished the auto factory at Zoth. Spy completed. Freighter fleet completed. That's perfect. We should have settlers arriving at Zoth 3. That's great. And, of course, the auto factory completed at Zoth 3. Now, the workers on Zoth are going to start working on that soil enrichment to get this planet our secondary bread basket. Because we are facing starvation right now. New Terra 3 has reached its maximum population. All population there is in the fields, save me, harvesting. And yet we have starvation. So that means a couple of things. It means that we finally are going to have to break down and build the biospheres to expand the living facilities on New Terra 3. So we'll put that into the queue, essentially cutting off parts of that old battleship we've been working on for a decade now. We'll just turn it into living quarters for some of the population to grow into. But it also means that we're going to pluck away one of our workers on Zoth and have them feebly start growing more food. We need more people on Zoth. Who should we steal from? I don't want to take away from New Terra 2 as it's our ultra-rich planet. Yeah. Gosh, we need people everywhere. However, some worlds are more important than others, aren't they? Let's steal from Rotan 2. It's only abundant, and they're only working on troop transports. We will send them on their way there. 2 turns till they reach Zoth. Remember, Zoth can handle, I believe, as many as 25 million workers. That even exceeds New Terra 3, so it will be the true jewel of our society here shortly. We'll hit a turn. Biosphere is completed on New Terra 3. They'll continue to grow there. Next in queue was the Purger. Settler arrives at Zoth 3. Excellent. And let's put them to work, on that soil enrichment. We'll have that shortly, and we may help speed production. We'll keep an eye on the buyout cost of that. Star bases are nearly completed in the Rigel system, so that's great news. It makes those systems much more capable of defending themselves. We have an incursion at the Gamma system. This is our scout frigate, yes. And they've sent a colony ship, a frigate, and a destroyer. I would engage one of our frigates against one of theirs, but I'm not going to risk sacrificing against 2 ships. The destroyer severely outweighs our transport. So even though the Marines on there aren't afraid to fight, while they go onto one of the ships, the other one's going to pound them into dust. They can't... It's not worth the risk. We don't want them colonizing the system. I'm going to send a ship of the line in to drive them off or destroy them. I don't care which. If they colonize the system, we will just drop troops on the planet and take the colony for ourselves. Rotan 5 has finished a spy, yeah. And Rotan 2 christened the new ship the troop transport. That's perfect. So let's do this. Let's send the troop transport to Gammas. But let's also send... See, we'll leave the Paladin to defend Zoth. But we will send the Purgers. Purger. So I'm going to deselect the Paladin and send our 2 Purgers with our transport ships to Gammas. They'll be there in 2 turns. Again, the Xenos can leave if they're wise. If not, we'll consume them and their colony. Keeping an eye on Xenos ships. Their space navy is pathetic, for lack of a better word. We advance again. Rigel 2 finished the starbase. Excellent. That means Rigel is now capable of working on ships of the line. And in fact, this may be a little risky. Let's refit the Paladin as a Purger. Now that does move it out of service, meaning we're slightly less defensive, but I have a feeling they could finish it quickly. 6 turns. Good enough. Yeah, we can risk that. We will risk it. We don't have a choice. We have to be aggressive. So Rigel here will reconvert the Paladin to a Purger. What else do we have? They fled the Gamma system when they saw our ships of the line coming. That shows that they're inferior to us in every way. There's a destroyer in orbit around Zubin, we believe, by the signatures we're receiving. And there's the retreating fleet heading far to the celestial south. It looks like they're going to make an attempt to colonize the planet down there. That's fine. As long as it's not in our neck of the woods, we'll go for them soon enough. One of my questions at this point is, with our Purgers, do we dare go at the Kadath system? Well, we've never put our new ships of the line to the test. Now seems as good a time as ever. Let's just see, though, how quickly our other ships will be finishing. New Terra 2 will complete a Purger in 6 turns, and the refit at Rigel 2 in 6 turns. Do we wait? Do we need to be cautious? I don't like caution so much. Powered armor. That will greatly help with any invasion or ship-to-ship combat. Provides troops with superior power and mobility by mechanically magnifying their natural strength. Powered armor-equipped troops have a +10 bonus to their combat rating and take 1 additional hit to kill. We're already heavy G, so our troops in this powered armor will take 3 hits to kill. Versus standard soldier on the planetary surface, a standard Marine from the Xenos will most likely take a single hit to kill. They won't stand a chance, which is wonderful. Well, at the 650 RP tech level, we have these horrible Xeno options. I wish I could just delete it from existence, but we're going to go with the anti-grav harness. Again, this allows our Marines to cross large voids and more or less ignore gravity or zero gravity. It's a gravitic propulsion system, for lack of a better word. We'll work on that next. We will have it in 14 turns. Of course, we are running into starvation again. Excellent. Our bellies are always tight. But we can finish the soil enrichment. I will rush the build on that because I'm tired of Terran's suffering. Is there anything I can do, though, to help? Yes, I am going to pull a worker away from New Terra 1 and slot them into food production. As soon as this soil enrichment completes, we shouldn't have want. Knock on the piece of old wood I keep from, well, I picked it up off of one of the agri planets. It's small, but I keep it with me all the time. It's just look at this. It's a single sheet of wood pulp. You can buy them for, well, about a week's salary. It's not much, less than a gram, but it's called paper, I believe. But I just like to be able to touch a tree at times. I keep it here on my desk always so I can just rub it whenever I need luck. Makes me feel good. Call me superstitious, I guess. But what are you going to do? We advance in turn. We've detected a powerful ripple in space-time on our gravatics. It's not dissimilar to something tearing through the warp, but we didn't think the warp was accessible in this pocket dimension. Something large, though, malevolent. Zal 3 finished the soil construction. The colony base will be continued. We are scanning our nearby space. Wherever that distortion came through isn't in our vicinity. We'll consider ourselves lucky for the time being. That being said, we have a small fleet around Gammas. 2 Purgers, of course a scout frigate, and 3 troop transports. Should be more than enough to smash a colony. Do we go for Kadith? We know they have some destroyers. One went to the Celestial South to colonize, presumably. That may mean it's out of action for several months. Now, if they were to counterattack with that destroyer, they could go smash into the Gamma system. They could smash into TIE, our outpost there. But if we can capture Kadith, we don't need the TIE outpost anymore. We'll have an actual outpost at Kadith. We'll have a colony. Now, there's a question of whether or not that destroyer could penetrate into Rigel, New Terra, or Rotan. We have a Paladin in orbit at Zoth, so I'm not worried about Zoth. I don't think one of their destroyers would be even close to a match for our ship of the line. So it's really a matter of how soon our Purgers will be finished. 4 turns. I can't imagine the destroyer getting there sooner than that. Therefore, I think it's time to launch the invasion of Kadith. No, not that ship. I'm going to leave the scout ship behind. Let's see what happens. Say a small little wish to the Emperor. Hope that even here, not hope, no, he watches over our fleets and our Marines and us. Rotan 2 christened a transport. Rigel Prime finished construction of their starbase. That's excellent for defense. Each colony is responsible to some degree for its own defense, both on the planet in the form of their own marine garrisons, common men, with the best our tech priests have to offer them, as well as their own orbital stations. So we have a bit of fight everywhere we set foot. That's the Terran way. For the time being, though, they don't need any other structures that I can think of. They haven't hit against biospheres. They've got their pollution processor unit helping with the production of everything else. So another Purger, yeah, why not? We have fleets in production. We have spies in production. We'll send the troop transport on to Zolth for the time being. I would send it to Ray, but I'm not... the TIE system. Trouble seeing that nameplate. But I am afraid they may counterattack once we hit Kadith. So, yeah, we'll keep our ships safe for the time being. Let's just check real quick. We don't have much in the way of coin. It's not much we can do to help folks. Everyone's building where they can. But we've increased the number of colonies now working on ships of the line to 6. So our military production simply increases every single month. Here we go. Let's see what we're up against. A single frigate. And no orbital defenses or planetary defenses. Oh, perhaps the Cylons are not as intelligent as I gave them credit for. It's a virtually undefended colony. Now it's ours. Let's take a little look here. We'll see if our scanners can pick anything up here. This is a small escort. Has plus 75 beam attack, plus 85 beam defense. We'll see if our battle scanners can crack that little nut. Missile evasion is only 7%. It couldn't survive even a single salvo. Titanium armor. Some sort of advanced metal. 8 structure, 8 armor. 2-3 nukes would finish that off. A basic class 1 shield. Absorbs nearly nothing. Fusion beams, nuclear bombs with an optronic computer not unlike what we have. It's faster than us. Has 5 Marines on board. Let's see if we can capture. Interesting. Yeah, let's send in the Marines. Marines are going to take over command. I'll just observe the fight from here. They will launch everything. One shot, one kill. Simple enough. Done. They do have powered suits of their own. 2 versus R12. I don't think we'd even need 1, but I think we could send one of our factory workers down there with the laser rifle and they'd be able to take these fools out. Look at this. They're coming in with anti-grav harnesses, titanium armor, fusion rifles, but they're from a low-G world. Their bodies are so frail. Look at this. Ceramics made from the earth of New Terra 3. We finally got a little kiln going. The children fabricate these for their arts and crafts. Yeah, all of our Marines survived. Didn't expect any different. None of their Marines did, though. Oh my gosh. We have captured, this is one of our brave Marines here, reporting in, has captured intact the planetary supercomputer on Kadith. Supplies researchers with a vast amount of information, generating 10 research points. Increases the research of each scientist production by 2. Don't worry about that. Intact. Our tech priests on those scout labs on these ships of the line. This is why they insisted on having the scout labs on every ship, so that they could immediately harness and dissect reverse engineering Xenos technology for our benefit. That is a beautiful find. That may mean the difference between life and death out here in this pocket void. The scouts have arrived in the Kadith system. A Xeno message coming in. Oh my gosh, what a hideous monstrosity. It's not even vaguely humanoid under that cloak. The mighty Darlock Empire has a unified goal, Emperor Salt says that, to erase your empire from the galaxy. I don't even deign to offer a response. We have in no way been hostile towards the Darlock, and yet they threaten to exterminate us from the galaxy? That is the way of Xenos, though, isn't it? Well, we'll see. In more communications? Who's this from? The pathetic Cylon ambassador. Did you think we would stand idly by while you slaughter innocent Cylon people? We will destroy you. You're welcome to try. Rotan 5 finished training a new spy, and the Terran and the Cylon empires are now at war? We were always at war. Whatever. Annihilate the conquered occupants of this colony at 1 per turn. It's interesting. A few months back, when food was tight at the colonies, one of the Marine sergeants invited me to a meal, to share a meal with him, which was very thoughtful. I remember sitting across the table from this man, even seated. He was a head taller than I was. Sitting down. That's how massive the Emperor grows them. But I mentioned the food issues we were having. Bandied about the idea of these hydroponic farms. I explained to him the financial burden it would put on the rest of our industries, the drain, for little return. We talked then about, well, using conquering aliens to take their homeworlds and get planets that could produce food for us. And at the time, somewhat foolishly being a rogue trader, thinking of my mercantilism nature, questioned the good sergeant and said, might we not enslave the Xenos? Put them to work for us? Why should Terrans toil in the field, in the factory, when the Xenos could do it for us? Apparently that is the wrong question to ask a Marine. His spoon stopped halfway from his bowl to his mouth. As he looked across from me, the spoon went back down into his soup, thin as it might be for all of us. Even the Marines were on rations. They share the burden with us always, let it not be said. And he looked at me and he said, Sulfsay, do you know why I kill Xenos? A little taken aback by the question, I think to myself for just a moment, not too long, I don't want to look like a coward. So, because the Emperor commands it. Sergeant laughed, of course. He said, well, indeed, the Emperor does command it. But he says, no. He says, kill Xenos, because the Xenos would kill me. He says, the people that work the fields need to be Terran, because it is for Terrans to provide the food. Terrans feed Terran. Terrans produce for Terran. So, what say you, Sulfsay? Would you enslave the Xeno? Now you have to understand, these Marines have total control of almost every aspect of their biology. His countenance didn't change, his cheeks didn't flush, but as I pondered our friendly conversation, I could see a hardness in the man's eyes. And I had this sensation that at any moment he might reach across the table, just seize me by the head, and crush it in his grip. I thought for a moment. Well, we don't want to starve. And the sergeant interrupted me at that moment and said, you know, the Emperor doesn't command everything, Sulfsay that. He does not command me to polish my armor. He does not command me to free a workman who's been pinned underneath a crate. No one has to tell me to do that. I see the man in trouble. I lift the crate off of his body and call for a medtech to help with his mangled legs. No one has to tell me to do that. Sometimes we must think for ourselves. But you have to be cautious, because when you think for yourself, you think of yourself. And therefore you think too small, Sulfsay. So, you understand my meaning. My mouth was so dry, I couldn't get a yes out in that moment. But he picked up his spoon again and continued to eat. For the time being, we will let them feed themselves while the Marines clean up the planet and make way for colonization of the Terrans. We will, of course, start with a Marine barracks, a research lab, starbase, supercomputer. We'll start there. Cadith Prime now belongs to the Imperium in the Void. Well, if you watched, thank you. That is enough for now. I must rest.